র্যাডিক্যালের যুগ, র্যাডিক্যাল স্ট্রাকচারালিজমের যুগ। তখন তো ওই সময়টা তাই ছিল,
একদমই তাই।
এখন অনেকটা আমরা সরে এসেছি সেই জিনিস থেকে, কিন্তু বেসিক যে ছেলে মেয়েদের যেটা আজকাল, কিন্তু ওরা মার্কসিয়ান কনসেপ্টটাকে, এই সোশ্যোলজি যে অত বড় একটা কনসেপ্ট, এইটা ওরা এখনো মানে
ইয়ে করে না আর কি।
হ্যাঁ, না মানে এটা তো থিওরিটিক্যালিও দেখো, আমাদের র্যাডিক্যালিজমই বলো, স্ট্রাকচারালিজম, সবকিছুই তো বেসিস তো ওটার উপরেই, মানে ওটাকে বাদ দিলে তো চলে না।
আচ্ছা, আমাদের প্রায় 10:58 হয়ে গেছে, এবার আমরা
এবারে বোধহয় আরম্ভ করে দিলে হয়। প্রিন্সিপাল স্যার কি এসেছেন? ঝুমা তো এসে গেছে দেখছি।
ঝুমা প্রিন্সিপাল এসেছেন?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, প্রিন্সিপাল স্যারকে বললাম, উনি জয়েন হচ্ছেন।
আচ্ছা, উনি জয়েন করলেই সৈনী স্টার্ট করে দেবে।
ঠিক আছে স্যার।
আমরা আর কি একটু অতীত আলোচনা করছিলাম।
সেই
শাশ্বতীজি কিন্তু অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমাদের ছোটদি ছিল আমাদের স্কলার রুমে, আর প্রতিমাদি ছিলেন মেজদি, অদিতিদি ছিলেন বড়দি। প্রতিমাদি পুরো মেজদির কাজটা মনে আছে, আমরা যেই ক্যান্টিনে চলে যেতাম বিশেষ এসে খোঁজ দিত উত্তম কোথায় গেছে, অদিতিদি কিন্তু সেটা ম্যানেজ করতে।
হ্যাঁ না, হ্যাঁ অদিতিদি কিন্তু তো দিদির মতন সব ম্যানেজ করতেন।
হ্যাঁ, অদিতি ম্যানেজ করতে।
স্যার প্রিন্সিপাল স্যার
এসে গেছে।
ওকে, সৈনী, you may start.
Good morning, everyone, to the second day of the international webinar entitled Reconstructing Heterogeneity in Human Populace, Transition to Transformation. I request Head of the Department and convener of this webinar, Dr. Jhuma Haldar, to start the introductory speech. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Shohini. Very good morning to all. We are on the second day of our webinar. I take this opportunity to welcome you all to this 2-day international webinar entitled Reconstructing Heterogeneity in Human Populace, Transition to Transformation, organized by the Department of Geography, Vidyasagar College, in collaboration with IQAC cell. I extend a warm welcome to our Principal Sir, Dr. Gautam Kundu. I extend a warm welcome our distinguished resource person, Professor Shashwati Mukherjee Madam, former Professor Geography, WBACS. I welcome Professor Pradeep Chauhan, Department of Geography, University of Gaur-Bongo, and welcome to our IQAC coordinator, all the distinguished guests, participants, and students. Yesterday, we had a great day with 2 thought-provoking and enlightening lectures. We came to know about India's coal reliance, its transition to solar energy to a low-carbon future, and also about social justice to the people associated with it. We have also acquired knowledge about environmental justice. If the environment is protected, only then the society and economy will survive. So today also we are eager to listen to 2 very interesting lectures by our eminent guests. So once again, thank you all for joining us. And without any further delay, I would hand over the microphone to Shohini for further announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now request our respected principal, sir, Dr. Gautam Kundu, to deliver his address. Sir, please.
Thank you, Sohini. A very good morning to all who are here present right now. I am really happy to announce that the Geography Department has been able to organize this 2-day international webinar, the first of its type, because in general, the international sort of webinar or seminar is very difficult to organize, but the Vidyasagar College, the Geography Department, has been able to organize the first of its type, that is the international webinar. So the topic was reconstructing heterogeneity in human populace, transition to transformation. And I'm happy, and also I would like to thank the convener, Dr. Jhuma Haldar, the head of the department, and under the able guidance of two senior most advisors, Dr. Uttam Mukherjee and Mrs. Anindita Ghosh, and a host of other teachers who have ably supported in the organizing this particular seminar. The first day of the seminar had gone on very well. As I have collected later, I have come to understand, I have whatever I have collected from Juma, that it had gone very well. The two speakers on that day was the very renowned Professor Kuntala Lahiri Datto and Professor Sanat Kumar Kuchet, and their speeches were liked by everyone, and it had actually enlightened us huge mass of students who are present today and were present yesterday. Similarly, today we also have two very renowned speakers, Professor Shashwati Mukherjee and Professor Pradeep Chauhan. Professor Pradeep Chauhan, I'm starting from the second speaker. Professor Chauhan actually had joined Vidyasagar College when I myself joined as a principal over there. And I had a bit of a stint of interacting with him. And later he shifted to Jadavpur University, where he did a short stint of service over there. And finally, he moved on to Bongo, the Department of Geography over there. And he is continuing in his present position as a professor in that particular department. He teaches over there population studies and social geography, and his area of research are fertility, maternal and child health, child marriage, and gender studies. So I welcome him. I welcome Pradeep to deliver his lecture as the second speaker, and we are happy to have you with us. Our first speaker today is Professor Shashwati Mukherjee, who is also a very well-known professor, and he is over here in is a former professor in geography in WBSCS, and she has worked as a guest faculty in Alia University and in the postgraduate department of geography, Lady Brabourne College. So her topic today is changing dimensions in social and cultural geography. So, Madam, we from Vidyasagar College welcome you heartily for giving us your valuable time to deliver your lecture on this particular topic, which I'm sure will enlighten and will be very much beneficial to all our UG and PG students. Thank you, Madam, for coming, and thank you all. And over to Sohini.
Thank you, sir. Now, may I please request Dr. Uttam Mukhopadhyay, former head and associate professor of the Department of Geography, to kindly say a few words. Sir, please.
Thank you, Shaini. A very good morning and a warm welcome to everyone present here. I am extremely thankful to you for your kind cooperation and gracious presence. I welcome you all to the second day of the international webinar entitled Reconstructing Heterogeneity in Human Populace, Transition to Transformation. Yesterday, we were highly enlightened by the deliberations of two esteemed researchers and academicians, Professor Kuntala Lahiri Datto and Professor Sanat Kuchet. Professor Lahiri Datto virtually kept every member of the audience hanging on to each and every word of hers by her vastly researched and immensely informative lecture. She argued in her lecture that there is not just one single coal economy in India, and that any framework of just transition must consider the multiplicities of coal economies. She brought today forefront, and how do we ensure a just transition away from coal in India. Professor Guchait, on the other hand, stressed the importance of economic sustainability, environmental perception, and its changing nature. He highlighted that environmental sustainability and economic development should be brought down to a single point of Cartesian coordinate and not to linear terms. Today we have with us Professor Shashwati Mukherjee, former professor of Geography, West Bengal Senior Education Service, and Professor Pradeep Chauhan, Professor Department of Geography, University of Gaurbanga, and also head of the department. Professor Mukherjee will enlighten us on the broadening ambit and changing dimension in social and cultural geography. Professor Chauhan will deliver his lecture on emerging public health issues and concerns in India. Undoubtedly, these areas of discussion will enrich our students, researchers, and all other participants. It would broaden the origin of the postgraduate students and would further direct, channel, and motivate and them to pursue research work in the future. Without further ado, let us dive deep into today's lecture series. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, may I please request Ms. Moumita Kanjilal to introduce our first speaker. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Shohini. It gives me immense pleasure to present to you today's first speaker, my teacher, renowned Professor Shashwati Mukherjee. Professor Shashwati Mukherjee was associated with WBACS as professor in geography in Lady Brabourne College and served there from 2011 until she retired as the head of the Department of Geography in 2014. After which, she has been teaching as guest faculty in Alia University, WBSU, Calcutta University, Jadavpur University, postgraduate Department of Geography in Lady Brabourne College. With a teaching experience of 32 years in various capacities, including teaching IAS in West Bengal state institutions from 1997 to 2017, she has been teaching in the postgraduate Department of Geography, Vidyasagar University since 1998. Formerly, she was appointed as Scientific Pool Officer, CSIR, from 1987 to 1989, after which she joined West Bengal Educational Services in 1989, serving Chandanagar Government College from 1989 to 1996, Presidency College 1997 to 2007. Apart from being a prolific teacher, she has more than 35 research publications under her name in various reputed journals, alongside authoring a book. A warm welcome to you, ma'am, once again, and I now humbly request you to begin your lecture. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Moumita. So, are the slides visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. So, without further delay, I'm directly going into the topic on which I have been asked to deliver and also asked to share some of my ideas with you. Before that, I must thank your principal, sir, Dr. Gautam, and also I thank the organizers, particularly Dr. Uttam Mukherjee, for inviting me to deliver this in this webinar and share some of my ideas with my young friends, the students, the research scholars, and also my colleagues. So today I am going to speak on the changing dimensions of in social and cultural geography. So you see, we all know that social and cultural geography, these are the two subdisciplines of geography, but these have undergone a transformation phase. Both these disciplines, research in social and cultural geography is moving through a transition phase. This is what I feel. And the domain of cultural geography, which is so dynamic, that it takes into account human heterogeneity to a great extent. So social geographical research takes into account multiple issues of human diversities in space and time. And hence, it is very diverse in its nature and content. Now, the complexities of human societies, life and livelihood patterns in the neoliberal societies, both in global south and global north, are going through a new era of transition. Hence, the domain of these two disciplines are ever expanding with new real life situations. And geographers are practically responding to this situation by exploring into the various aspects of human life and society. In the current pandemic situation, the issues pertaining to man-environment society interface have undergone a paradigmatic shift. Now, the stages of transition, if one wants to categorize broadly, it would be seen that the transition is highlighted taking into account a span of, say, for last 30 to 50 years, during which multiple transformations have taken place in human societies of both global north and south. The stages can be understood better in the light of philosophies of modernism, postmodernism, post-colonialism, and neoliberalism that have defined the subject matter and social and cultural geographies. The transition have been, however, non-linear, and it is quite heterogeneous in space. Postmodern social and cultural geography. During the post-colonial, post-structural, and postmodern periods, social and cultural geographies have transcended their earlier boundaries of geographical construction and practices and transformed into hybrid geographies of spaces of imagination and real-life situations. The transformation process is highlighted into a space-time framework. Now, evolution of social geography, if one tries to understand, social geography has a much recent origin as a separate branch of academic subdiscipline of human geography, say about 18th century. It started as an offshoot of sociology, and for a long time, for nearly 100 years, remained closely related to the aspects of social perspectives that are studied at a macro level. French geographers, Reclus is credited, however, with the coining of the term social geography. New social geography, which we now have come into that period during the last century, particularly post-70s, post-1970s, social geography emerged as a spatial study of social phenomena and started exploring the socio-spatial aspects of man and the social relations. The action space of social geographical phenomena shifted from macro to micro level. Space study focused on lived space. Here I would like to refer to the concepts of Lefebvre and Soya, who have worked elaborately on the trilectics of space. The absolute space, the relative space, and the relational space, and the lived space, rather, the lived space, which is the contested space. Many man and the social, cultural, political, and economic actions started producing social spaces and consequently social geographies of production of space in diverse politico-social environments have taken place, which Lefevre, Soya, Harvey, Castells, they have worked in their own field in countries like America and Latin American situations where the situations are quite different. So diverse human societies have given rise to huge complex relationships of social production of space that has been the subject matter of research during these periods. Changing issues and themes, how the issues and themes have changed for the last 30 to last 50 years, or even less, 40 years. Historical evolution reveals that during the post-positivism era, social geography became more humane, taking note of individual actions, individual behavior, personal needs, achievements, and constantly these been focusing and refocusing on socio-spatial perspectives. Individual decision-making became more powerful in the production of conflictual and contesting space. As we understand space today now, it has become conflicting and conflictual because of interactions of several stakeholders in this field. So in this context, I would like to draw your attention towards the urban space, which has become increasingly contested and conflictual due to the presence of multiple stakeholders. And therefore, individual viewpoints have become more expressive, more demanding than before. Action-oriented social geography. This is a new phase in social geography where we find that it stands now for identifications and advocacy and activism in the post-1990s, as has been researched and studied by several geographers such as Hamnet, Kitchen and Hubbard, Payne, Jackson, Peach, etc. There are now multiple social and cultural geographies and more than one story of their progress in the past decade. Now, the focus of social geography has now been turned on, to an extent, social activism. Social issues of homelessness, inequality, health and planning are conflictual and it needs debate. Anti-racist geographies are of the opinion that there is a necessity for dispelling the division between theory and activism. So far, geographical research was mostly focused on theory, but this kind of activism, which has now become so important, which we can find in ecosocial, ecological social issues. Like yesterday, Professor Shanad Guchait was talking about the hollow box. That is a kind of a situation where there is this conflict between the recipients and the planners. So there is an urgent need for becoming more vocal locally as well as globally to pinpoint these issues. In India also, we have faced several such issues of related to social ecological aspects. So and that is quite inevitable when development is a continuous process. So there is a continuous conflict between the ecological and technocentric views of development, which Professor Guchait was highlighting. And in most of the cases we have seen the ecocentric view, the voice has died down. So therefore there is an urgent need of social geographies to focus on social activism, which takes into account these kind of contesting issues. Recent research has shown the diversity of strategies and levels and degrees of engagement in how activism is enacted we have innumerable examples of such situations. Now, space as a commodity, for the first time, space has been defined or rather understood as a commodity. In search of establishing a separate identity for social geography, the geographers indulged into a series of methodological and conceptual understanding of man, society, and environment. By the late 1990s, the demand for space, spatial and social production of space became subject to strife as society manifested greater diversity in terms of class, caste, ethnicity, and gender-related issues. Space became commodified as understood by Saskia Sassen, who researched elaborately on the command and control systems of the entire world economy. So that was the beginning of the period of space becoming a commodity. In the neoliberal era, and competition for social space increased manifold, resulting into fragmented space termed as spaces of conflict. Here I would also like to draw your attention to the local issues. Say, for example, the competitions for space in Kolkata. If you see the pavements, they are the spaces multiple stakeholders, the hawkers, the pedestrians, the vendors, everybody is their livelihood is depending on that space. So therefore, there's a constant fight between the stakeholders regarding the ownership of that space, which becomes the subject matter of geographical research, particularly social and cultural geographical research. Now, postmodern social geography, as you know, these periods are also overlapping, they cannot be separated to a great extent. In the 21st century, the domain of social geography became all-encompassing in its subject matter and content, and a multitude of methodologies were adopted, both quantitative and qualitative, to study a myriad of issues ranging from social processes, social pattern, social movements, social activism, and circulation of people to emotional, psychological, and aesthetic perspectives of people at individual, group, and community levels. So, hence, from this time onwards, the hermeneutic method has been more applied in understanding these kind of microspatial issues that are arising. Though the urban space is the focus of the study, but in rural spaces also, we have started finding such conflicting situations because of the development of, say, for example, ecotourism, say, for example, heritage tourism, say, for example, village tourism. So all these things have brought in multiple people having multiple views and stakes in the understanding and use and control of space and also resources. So man, society, environment interface, how it is going, how it is transforming, that is the subject matter of the researcher. In the social geography as a study in social relations. In this context, social geography transcended its boundary right from the post-colonial era and is continuing to the present. It now includes all aspects of human life and space relations that are constantly changing from local to global perspectives. Neoliberal cities became the chief focus of research as they produce spaces of binaries, just that is us and them, real and imagined. Social activism, feminist movements, private and public spaces, all types of right activisms, issues of LGBT, issues of social security, themes related to marginality and identification of vulnerable groups, in short, anything that is related to man and his livelihood pattern comes within the purview of research in social geography. Now, theoretical background. The theory is of great importance in geographical studies as it gives the basis on which investigation and analysis is conducted, though sometimes overlooked in the quest for establishing empirical laws. In social geography, the theorization starts from the grassroots level. Theories of social geography are borrowed from sociology, economics, and political science. Two things are important in geographical studies. One is understanding the scalar dimension, macro to micro, and that is the hierarchy, and the spatial areal differentiation. Both these are theorized. In the post-colonial, post-structural, and postmodern era, social geographical research increasingly focuses on socio-spatial phenomena. There's a demand-supply situation for space and its multiple uses at individual and at group levels in the urban areas. The issues of governance and rights of the residents bring in social activism and contests over ownership and use of space for multiple purposes of living, working, relaxing, etc. So the neighborhood changes, gentrification, emergence of gated communities, transformation of urban land use, uneven development are some of the visible manifestations of such social processes arising out of neoliberalism. Neoliberal cities have become revanchist. After Smith, who has talked about this, the cities have become revengeful. Earlier, it was cities who used to provide the human touches, which used to provide services to its people. Now the cities have, in the neoliberal era, the cities have become revanchists. The impact of this is being increasingly felt in the global south too, because nobody is outside the periphery of the development program. So multidisciplinary theoretical models emerge. In social geography research, welfare issues have become important in the 21st century, and as such, it borrows the theories from welfare economics, human development concepts, etc. The geography of inequality, welfare geography, leisure and gender geography, geography of crime, geography of leisure are some of the new avenues in which social geographical research is rooted. At the same time, since participatory development from the grassroots level is implemented in social engineering, theories from the disciplines of political science and public administration are also part of the social geographical research and studies. Participatory research approach. This approach in social geography research has become very popular, and it is undertaken collaboratively with and for the individuals, groups, or communities who are the beneficiaries of social development and space restructuring. Participatory approaches present a promising means of making real in practice the stated goals and ideals of critical social geography. Social policy, another area, very important. Social policy formulation has been a part of social geography for a long time. Geographers are engaged in focusing need-oriented and local resource-oriented policies for vulnerable groups. Thus, policy formulation varies from policy critique, theoretical perspectives, through empirical studies, to work which is more collaborative and or activist in nature. In a paper on tenure legislation, a scholar Barbie addresses debates of legality, illegality in low-income housing in developing countries, assessing government's attempts to incorporate poor people into formal housing markets with reference to a case study in Mexico. Trends of research in social geography. Kobayashi worked on multiculturalism policy in Canada. Smith et al. On the links between health and housing in Britain, and Gleason on urban social exclusion and Gleason on urban exclusion in Australia. In India, multiculturalism is mostly being studied from political science research, but it is now also being incorporated in social and cultural research, cultural geographical research. Thus, contemporary social geography is firmly established on its feet as a separate subdiscipline of geography. Now, coming to cultural geography, cultural geography has a long established identity as a subdiscipline of human geography. Although the meaning and content of the subject matter has undergone a sea change since its inception during the medieval period following European and Arabian tradition. Cultural geography in its initial days had a very close relation with anthropology and ethnological studies, to which it owes its origin. Anthropogenic attributes. Cultural geography, being a sub-branch of human geography, is currently subsuming the identity of human geography and increasingly being used synonymously with human geography. Anything to do with human environment and human relations in spatial context is now being included in the study of cultural geography. The domain of cultural geography has really become vast and is ever expanding, and it is extremely dynamic too. Domain of cultural geography. The domain of cultural geography is truly holistic and inclusive of a wide range of activities of man related to social, cultural, economic, and political dimensions that human beings encounter during the course of their entire lifespan. The human adaptation and assimilation processes, his migration behavior, his zeal for disseminating cultural attributes, his innovations at each stage of societal development come within the purview of the study of cultural geography. Changing paradigms in cultural geography. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the focus of cultural studies were on tribes and their livelihood patterns, social stratification, social organizations, kinship structure, and many more issues. The colonial interpretation was essentially Eurocentric, and efforts were made to understand the Aboriginal societies in different colonies. Post-colonial geography took note of people, places, and identity to highlight the multiculturalism in Western cities and pluralism in Oriental cities. Apart from that, cultural geography focuses on the issues of religion, language, art, literature, music, folklore, various cultural practices of diverse cultural groups spatially distributed in the surface of the earth. In this context, we might also mention the cultural practices of water users in rural India. That has also got something to do with socio-ecological perspectives, whether to preserve the ecological, take the conservative attitude, or to go in for a mixed attitudes where the social, where the cultural the practices are so much oriented towards water bodies in rural areas, forests for that matter. So, this is a continuous interface between man, environment, and resources. And increasingly, man is encroaching into the domain of, natural habitats such as forests, which may have resulted in this kind of zoonotic infections or pandemic that we see today because of man's encroachment into the sphere of the non-human environment. So from here starts the emergence of new geographies. From the latter half of the 20th century, the focus shifted to micro-level studies. Post-colonial emphasis was on individual decision-making, studies related to individual needs, such as formation of inner-city ghettos, incidents of racial riots, substance abuse among teenagers, urban homelessness of marginal groups, gender abuse, etc. These are becoming more relevant to cope with real-life situations. Micro-level studies on place and identity, heterotopia, the concept introduced by Foucault, spaces of hope, introduced by Harvey, geography of difference, are some of the outcomes of such studies during the contemporary period. But we have moved further. We have moved further from there. Foucault's concept of heterotopia, of other space, which are discursive spaces of other, such as prisons, gardens, brothels, have found places in cultural geographies of the contemporary world. These spaces have more layers of meaning, and hence the cultural geographers have become interested in exploring these avenues. Now, social utopia also gained the center stage in the interpretation of heterotopia or parallel space, and cultural geographical studies focus on this. The post-structural geographies bring this dual space hidden from the eye. So they are talking about these binaries, us and them, real and imaginative, actual and virtual. So now coming to also the humanistic and welfare issues, during the postmodern period, cultural studies focused on alleviating poverty, hunger, ill health, and deprivation. Thus, issues and themes become inseparable with that of social geographical perspectives. Along with this, political economic perspectives of development at the local and global levels became more realistic. Geography became more lived during the post-colonial era, with improving quality of life as its main agenda of research. Now, cultural phenomena, if we want to highlight a little bit on that, in the era of globalization of culture, pluralism and multiculturalism existing in various parts of the Oriental and Occidental world have become crucial areas of studies. Griswold, Joseph, and many others. Issues of forced migration and cultural changes arising thereof are subject of recent research. We have seen huge human exodus in various parts of the world. Very recently, the problem of Rohingyas. They are coming from another country and they are getting settled in a different country. So what kind of cultural and social changes they are bringing to their immediate environment? What are the impacts they are making on the environment? And how the issues of these international, situations, international migrations can be tackled. These are also being studied by the cultural geographers. The process of culture change and new cultural and social features of assimilation, adaptation, and integration actually determine socio-cultural relations in space. And geographers' perspective is to determine the spatiality of cultural transformation. So you see how diverse the human societies are, and how these diversities and spatiality can be taken into account in the analysis and research of modern geographies. Now, interdisciplinary nature of cultural geography cannot be ignored. The increasing complexities arising in post-industrial societies based on urban metropolitan culture has enabled people to communicate at different levels within a very short span. Thus, technology and mass communication systems have ushered in new geographies of culture in a heterogeneous and fragmented space. Now coming to the question of power and space, which is very, very important in cultural geographical research. Foucault actually the French philosopher, he has never mentioned geography directly, but his ideas of power in relation to space have made indirect impact on space relations. And in this context, the study of heterotopia becomes significant. Foucault's concept of heterotopia is constituting of certain cultural, institutional, and discursive spaces that are somehow other, disturbing, intense, incompatible, contradictory, or transforming, which are of specific interest for cultural geographers. This eternal conflict between us and them, other and we, these are the features, these are the binaries. Heterotopias are worlds within worlds, mirroring and yet upsetting what is outside. Therefore, that was Foucault's concept. Therefore, present epoch is as an epoch of space. The present epoch is an epoch of space as envisaged by Foucault. Interdisciplinary approach, a little bit more on this. Therefore, geographical interpretation of culture groups, culture pattern, cultural processes, cultural traits, and cultural attributes, and emergence of multi-layered cultural systems have undergone a paradigm shift. Emphasis put on field-based and empirical methods of qualitative analysis. This is hermeneutic method, as we call it, interpretative hermeneutic method. This methodology of field-based experiential data analysis and interpretation has now become more appropriate and realistic in social and cultural geographies. Now coming to the aspect of hybrid geographies, because today these are the areas of cultural geographical research. Hybrid geographies, the concept of hybrid culture refers to the fluid and performative subjectivity that resists the rigidity of any fixed and static categories of identity, such as gender, race, and nationality. Persons like Bhabha, Young, Mahatani, they have worked on this. Hybrid geographies are geographical practices that challenge the boundary and forge creative connections between social, cultural, and spatial analytical geographies. Hybrid geographies attempt to integrate critical social theory and spatial analytical methods. So hybrid geographies, they do not consider these binaries actually, So the hybrid geography has been used to transcend the binary constructions that posit nature and culture, science and society, or economy and culture as two independent and impermeable spheres. Many people have worked on this: Bruno Latour, Haraway, Murders, Watmore, World. Some of these are known feminist geographers. They have worked on this. They do not believe in this kind of divisions between human beings. There might be diversities, there might be complexities, but there is no division. You cannot sort of compartmentalize. This is the view of the hybrid geographies. Hybrids are human and non-human entities that travel between and connect existing divisions and hybridization, and entail a movement that seeks to integrate elements that are thought to be incompatible or conflicting. So there must be a synergy, there must be a synthesis between the two. There cannot be any binaries in today's world. Derek Gregory's comments in relation to Watmore's publication of Hybrid Geography, which is a very famous book published in 2002, where she said that hybrid geographies is one of the most original and important contributions to the field of geography in the last 30 years. This statement is very, very significant in today's fluid world. Hybrid geography critically examines the opposition between nature and culture, the material and the social, as represented in scientific, environmental, and popular discourses. Culture of diaspora and cultural globalization. Studies of diaspora have become very popular as people move freely in diverse cultural spaces. With increasing international migrations and a high incidence of mobility of people, studies on diaspora identity and spatiality of identity crisis assumed a great significance in cultural geographical research. Another important area of study is cultural globalization, which social geographers are now undertaking. So we can then say that research in cultural geographies have undergone a paradigm shift in nature, content, and methodology. Moreover, it can be stated that social and cultural geographies are most dynamic, vibrant, and it deals with real life issues of society, man, space, triumvirate. In today's world, we really cannot separate these. Yesterday, Professor Shanot Guchait was saying this, that economically developed countries are ecologically not always ecologically very, very conscious. Even you can say now that ecological footprints, carbon footprints are mostly being created by the most developed countries. But yet, this at the height of consumerism, at the height of, I would say, expansionist view, we have completely ignored these society, man, space, and environment, dialectic. So in order to bring in a just human society and to sustain these complexities and diversities, there is an urgent need for synthesis between these two. This is all I had to share with you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving us such an insightful deliberation, which was so full of information, simple, lucid, yet so easy to understand for the students. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, we would begin with the interactive session.
Yes.
So far, we just have one question. Ma'am, the question says that as a social scientist, do you think that in this unsettling times, that is the pandemic situation that we are in, social transition has taken place more than cultural transition? What are your views on this?
Actually, I would say that it is very, very difficult to separate social transition from cultural transition or vice versa, because man's social and cultural activities are so much more intertwined, so much more overlapping, that you really can't, the best practices, best social practices and best cultural practices will always overlap. So therefore, in this phase of transition, we would need to think from a holistic point of view. The philosophy of holism and the philosophy of, this is what I meant, that doing away with binaries. We need to come in together, synthesize, so that we do not differentiate between man and environment. You see, the environmental monism, environmental dualism, these philosophies are there, and one must understand that we cannot separate man from his environment. So this is both cultural and social. So the period through which we are passing, particularly I say that pandemic situation, which is so much affecting our livelihood, who is being spared, you tell me? Neither the global north nor the global south. Everybody is equally affected. And the next lecture of Professor Chauhan would probably bring in these issues of health related issues. That is also social and cultural. You cannot really separate it out. So therefore there is a need for joining, coalescing. That is my view, of course.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful explanation. Ma'am, we have another question. So he asks that, how far do you think that LGBT movement in India has influenced our society, and whether they have been able to create their own space or not?
Of course, even the High Court ruling has come, and they really have been able to create a space for themselves. People are accepting. There is a third gender, that there is the other that has been accepted. This is the concept of other. Otherwise, it was not there even 5 years, 7 years back. We never thought that it would come to such a rigid institutional conservative country would accept such things. But people have realized that we cannot exist on our own. Us and then we and other both are part of this space. So LGBTs, they definitely have been able to create a space for themselves. This is I was referring to this contesting and conflictual space in which there is a constant fight for survival. This is also kind of social activism. People have, particularly after the pandemic, you see that profession, the red light zone, how they have been affected. People are coming out in large numbers. Not only the NGOs, but even general public are coming with their helping hands. So this shows that social consciousness, the social awakening is happening. And herein comes the role of the geographer as a discipline who understand both the phenomenal and the perceptual, both the actual and the imaginative. So geographers have a very, very, very special role to play in this. This is what is my view.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ma'am, thank you so
much. Showing এক মিনিট, শাশ্বতী,
হ্যাঁ, ওকে, হ্যাঁ, বল।
চোখ বুজিয়ে সত্যেশ বাবুকে দেখছিলাম।
থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
সত্যেশ বাবুর এক্সপ্লেনেশন এরকম ভাবেই থাকতো আর কি। আমরা যে সেমিনার গুলো করতাম মনে আছে সেই সময়কার সেমিনার?
ওনারা তো স্টলওয়ার্ড ছিলেন আমাদের।
মানে আমি চোখ বুজে শুনছিলাম আর কি। এটা একদম মনে হচ্ছে সত্যেশ বাবু অ্যান্সার দিচ্ছেন আর কি। ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ। অসাধারণ বলেছেন শাশ্বতী দি, মানে অ্যামেজিং।
থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
Now, may I please request Dr. Piyali Ghosh to introduce our next speaker. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Shohini. Good afternoon to all. It is my honor and privilege that on behalf of the Department of Geography, Vidyasagar College, and my fellow colleagues, I would like to welcome and introduce Professor Pradeep Chauhan, the esteemed resource persons of today's last session. Welcome you, sir. Presently, Dr. Pradeep Chauhan is the professor in the Department of Geography, University of Gaurbango, Malda, West Bengal. Professor Chauhan has awarded PhD from the University of North Bengal. Previously, he was affiliated with the Department of Geography, Gaur Malda College, Malda, as assistant professor from 2006 to 2015. Professor Chauhan has been worked with Department of Geography of Vidyasagar College as well as Jadavpur University during 2015 to 2016. In March 2016, he joined the Department of Geography of University of Gaurbango. Apart from this, he has published more than 50 articles, books, and book chapters in different reputed peer-reviewed journals. Professor Chauhan has been worked with different national collaboration with like UGC and ICSSR through his career. His area of interests are mainly population geography, specifically fertility behavior, maternal child health, public health, and other emerging population-related issues. With these words, I would like to request Professor Pradeep Chauhan to present his valuable lecture, and we would love to hear from you, sir. Please.
Thank you, Priyali. A very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I like to thank Dr. Gautam Kundu, Principal, Vidyasagar College, Dr. Alok Ghosh Chaudhary, Coordinator, IQAC, Dr. Uttam Mukhopadhyay, Anita Ghosh, advisors of this webinar, Dr. Juma Haldar, convener and HOD, and other faculty members of Department of Geography for inviting me to speak on emerging public health issues and concerns in India. This year, World Population Day was celebrated on the theme, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on fertility. I will start my lecture with fertility behavior and associated maternal and newborn health. Now the question is, what is fertility behavior? Fertility behavior refers to the number of child, birth order, birth spacing, and contraceptive behavior. Adverse fertility behavior affects both maternal as well as newborn health. The maternal and newborn health issues are related to the Sustainable Development Goal 3, that is good health and well-being. Now, if we look at the fertility transition of the world, during 1950 to 1960, the TFR in most of the African and few South American countries were more than 7, and in India it was more than 5. So what were the main reasons that late fertility transition recorded in those countries? Take a look at the beginning of demographic transition. We all know the demographic transition model. Take a look at the scenario of South American and African countries. The demographic transition in those countries started much later. That is after Second World War. If we look at the scenario of the countries of Northwestern Europe, where the demographic transition started in late 18th century, this was the reason behind the late fertility transition in many African countries. Now take a look at the changing pattern of birth rate and death rate in the light of demographic transition. We all know that if a country that exists in the first stage of demographic transition with high birth and death rate, the middle portion of the pyramid is shrinking, and this is because of the fact of lower life expectancy. When that country enters in the stage 2, living stage 1, the death rate falls very sharply. As a result, triangular shaped pyramid can be observed in that country. This situation is not good because of the high dependent population compared to the working age population. This is called demographic burden situation, which leads to the poverty, malnutrition, child mortality, etc. When that country enters in stage 3 with the fertility birth rate reduction, look at the base. It is shrinkage base compared to the earlier pyramid. And when that country enters in stage 4, the situation is called demographic dividend situation, because look at the purple color pyramid. The middle portion of the pyramid is wider compared to the base. This is the indication of higher proportion of working age population. And when the country enters in the stage 5, at present Germany, Japan, these countries are in stage 5, we can observe the cauliflower shaped pyramid. This is because of the fact that huge reduction in fertility rate and higher life expectancy. Now take a look at the population pyramid of West and East Germany. We can easily understand the upper shrinkage portion during the 1914 to 1918. This is because of the fact that birth deficit during First World War. Now look at the second birth deficit which occurred during the World War II during 1939 to 1945. We all know that there was post-war baby boom. What is baby boom? Baby boom means rapid increase in fertility rate, which led to the rapid increase in population. After baby boom, the people realize it is not good for environment, as well as it can adversely affect maternal as well as newborn health. So they think about to restrict the population size by birth control, like using of more contraceptives. As a result, there was a considerable decline in the population. Look at the scenario. This is called baby bust. This is during 19 1967 to 1979, this phase is known as the baby bust. Then the country experienced the situation of eco effect during 1980 to 1995. What is eco effect? Actually, eco effect, the children who born during the eco effect are the children of baby boomers. They are the children of the baby boomers. After eco effect, the country experienced millennium busters. Who are the millennium busters? Actually, millennium busters were children of the baby busters. This phase recorded during 1996 to 2010. Now, take a look at the growth of the world population. The population size of the world was 4 billion in 1974. It rapidly increased to 5 billion in the year 1987. The day of 5 billion population. We know that the World Population Day is observed on 11th July. But what is the significance of the day that we observe World Population Day? We feel proud that Professor K.C. Jacharia, presently he is working at Center for Development Studies, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. He was then senior demographer of World Bank. He suggested United Nations to celebrate, to observe the day as World Population Day, on which the world population reached 5 billion. Actually, the objective of observing the World Population Day was to create awareness of poverty reduction, malnutrition reduction, maternal child mortality reduction. This is the significance of observing the World Population Day. This year, the theme of the World Population Day, I mentioned earlier that impact of COVID on fertility. Now, as per the estimation that sustainable population size of the earth, it is 8 billion. Now take a look at the figure in 2050, the world population will reach to 9.7 billion, and it will lead to the human overpopulation by 2050 or sooner. At the present rate of the TFR or fertility rate, it is projected that by the year 2027, India will cross the China in terms of total population. Now, look at the comparative change in total fertility between the global scenario and India. In 1950, the TFR of India was 5.6. In 2007, it declined to 2.14. And by the end of this century, that is 2100, it will be 1.29. At the present fertility rate, it is projected that the fertility in India will decline. And as per the estimation of the University of Washington, they estimated that India's population could shrink by 300 million in 80 years. And they also observed that the population of Nigeria, it will cross the China's population. And over to the moving over to next. Now I will deliver about the fertility behavior and the fertility by religion in India. It is a very debatable issue since long. As per the report of Times of India, which was based on the National Family Health Survey 4, that cultural and geographical factor and level of development of different states seems to be more important determinant of how many children a woman has rather than religion. So the message is clear based on the National Family Health Survey 4, which conducted during 2015 and 16, that rather than fertility, the background characteristics of women like her educational qualification, contraceptive behavior, level of economy, etc., are important determinant of fertility. This statement can be explained with the help of two viewpoints. The first one is inter-religion viewpoint. This is the comparative analysis between two religious groups. Now take a look at this table. This table, as per the NFHS 4, that the total fertility rate for Muslims in Tamil Nadu, it is 1.7, whereas the total fertility rate among Hindus of Bihar, it is nearly double, that is 3.1. And as per the Census of India data, we know that Kerala is most developed state of India. In Kerala, the TFR among Muslims is 2.3. Now take a look at the one of the underdeveloped states, that is EAG state, Bihar. The scenario of TFR of Hindus, it is 2.9. It is higher than the Muslim. And my second viewpoint is intra-religion viewpoint. Actually, this is cross-sectional analysis of a particular religion. The total fertility rate of highly educated women is lower than illiterate women. Educational level, age of marriage, awareness, etc. are very important determinants that determines the number of child of a woman. Now look at the comparative demographic profile among India, West Bengal and Malda. In terms of decadal growth rate, population density per square kilometer, total fertility rate. What is total fertility rate? Actually, total fertility rate is number of children per woman, and women already mother or pregnant between age group 15 to 19. All these four components, the situation of Malda is very not good, because in Malda the TFR is considerably higher compared to national level figure and state level figure. If we take a look at the situation of Muslims in Malda, among the Muslims, the decadal growth rate, fruit birth rate, and general fertility rate is considerably higher compared to Hindus. That's why I have considered Malda Muslims as a target population for the study of fertility behavior. Actually, this portion of my presentation is from ICSSR major project, which I have recently submitted. And considering this fact, it is called that Malda is one of the most backward districts of India. This is a report of Niti Aayog, and as per West Bengal Human Development Report, that rank of Malda is 17 out of 18 districts of West Bengal. Now take a look at the situation of maternal and child health care. Maternal health care can be divided into three portions, that is antenatal care, delivery care, and PNC or postnatal care. What is antenatal care? Actually, antenatal care are those cares at the time of the pregnancy. The delivery care is the care at the time of childbirth, and postnatal care are the care after childbirth. If we look at the statistics of mothers with full antenatal care, during this phase, women take multivitamins, iron and folic acid tablets, and calcium, etc. In Malda, the percentage of women with full ANC is only 12%, which is 10% less than West Bengal. In case of the institutional delivery, it is only 55% in Malda. Institutional delivery helps in reduction of maternal as well as neonatal mortality. But in Malda, still 45% deliveries are home delivery, so there is higher risk of maternal mortality as well as newborn mortality. And the birth assisted by doctor or nurse, the percentage of Malda is only 61, which is 20% less than West Bengal. If we look at the situation of postnatal care, it is only 14%, which is again 12% less than West Bengal. And the children aged 12 to 23 months fully immunized by BCG, measles, and 3 doses of each polio and DPT. The percentage is nearly 70%, which is again 15% less than West Bengal. Considering this fact, it may be said that Malda is one of the poor performing districts of West Bengal in maternal and child health care services utilization, which may cause maternal and child health vulnerabilities, including maternal and child mortalities. Now, what are the important determinants that affect the fertility? Sun preference, agricultural society and supply for labor force, joint family system, religious beliefs, level of education, and lack of awareness of family planning. These factors affect high fertility, and high fertility affects maternal health vulnerability and also child health vulnerabilities like fetal death, infant mortality, and under 5 mortality. And all these child mortalities affect or increases the demand of number of children in society, and it again affects fertility, and fertility again affects child fertility again increases high fertility. So it may be called as a vicious cycle of fertility. To break this vicious cycle, we have to reduce the child mortality, and we have to increase the using of family planning, and we should increase the level of education of women. And take a look at the district level variations in total fertility. All districts of West Bengal are arranged in descending order. The Uttar Dinajpur tops with TFR 2.64, and the rank of Malda is second with TFR 2.44. The position of Kolkata, it's last. Actually, it is very good condition. High fertility is not desired for maternal child vulnerability. In Kolkata, the TFR is only 1.41. Now, if we look at the impact of literacy on fertility in West Bengal, I have marked few important districts, that is Uttar Dinajpur, where the female literacy in Malda, female literacy is considerably lower, and as a result, the TFR in these two districts are high. And on the other hand, Purbo Medinipur, Paschim Medinipur, and Kolkata, they are in these districts the female literacy is higher and the TFR is considerably lower. And this diagram represents district-wise variations in age-specific fertility rate in West Bengal. Take a look at this yellow line. Actually, that topmost line, yellow line, it represents the fertility scenario of most fertile age group, that is 20 to 24 years. In Kolkata, look at the scenario, it is considerably lower than other districts, because we know that female awareness and education level of and age of marriage in Kolkata is high. These are the factors that results lower TFR in Kolkata compared to all other districts. Now take a look at the scenario of Malda, very high fertility in Malda, and the red line represents the teenage mothers or teenage pregnancy. Actually, teenage mother, it is not good. It promotes maternal mortality and child mortality. In Malda, Murshidabad, the number of teenage mothers are too high, so it can be assumed that there is a high risk of maternal and neonatal mortality. And the diagram below, it represents the TFR by mean age at marriage of women between 15 to 49 years. Actually, fertility study is done based on this age group. In demography, we call this age group as a reproductive age group. For fertility analysis, we analyze the women belong to age group 15 to 49 years. So, if we look at the situation of the mean age of marriage, in mean age of marriage in Malda, it is 17.18. That means there is dominance of child marriage. If we look at the scenario of Kolkata, mean age of marriage is 20.30. That's why the TFR is considerably lower, that is 1.41 in Malda. Due to high rate of child marriage, the TFR is 2.44. Now take a look at the percentage of women with current contraception method by religion in Malda. I have considered two dominant religious groups, that is Hindu and Muslims. In Malda, among Muslims, the women who are not using any types of contraceptive, the fact is very much shocking that nearly 63% women, they do not use any type of contraceptive. This affects the high fertility among Malda Muslims. And in terms of the female sterilization, it is a permanent means of family planning. Among the Malda Muslim women, it is only 6%, and compared to Muslims, among the Hindus, it is more than 5 times, that is 32%. The lower percentage of permanent family planning means the women are using temporary means of family planning methods. Temporary means of family planning methods have high risk. They increases risk of unwanted pregnancy, and which results then unwanted childbirth. The family planning is very important for improvement of the maternal health, for the improvement of child health, for the increasing women awareness, and for promoting education of women, for ending hunger and poverty, for decreasing HIV/AIDS, and very importantly, to save our environment. Now, take a look at the association between high fertility. For the purpose of the study, I have considered the women who had 3 or more child as high fertile women, and different socioeconomic and demographic characteristics. The fertility depends on place of residence. In rural areas, the fertility rate is very high, and one very important determinant is women education. It is clear from this table that with increasing level of women, the fertility decreases, and age marriage has significant impact on fertility. The fertility rate is considerably high among women who got married before 18 years of age. And another important determinant of high fertility, that is wealth index or wealth quintile. Take a look at the figures that with the increasing wealth quintile, the fertility rate decreases. And among the Muslims, the women who do not use any types of contraceptive, they have more fertility, and women who got pregnant before 20 years of age, they have higher fertility rates. Now, moving on to the next segment, that is maternal health vulnerability. Effect of fertility on maternal health. The important maternal health vulnerabilities are gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, fetal death, anemia, stillbirth, and malnutrition. There are 2 components of fetal death. One is miscarriage and stillbirth. We often use this term, but we should know what is the difference between miscarriage and stillbirth. If a fetus or embryo that dies before 5 months or 20 weeks, that is called miscarriage. If the embryo dies after 5 months, it is called stillbirth. And what are the impacts of high fertility on newborns? The low birth weight, chronic disease, infant mortality, under 5 mortality, physical disorder, and preterm birth. And maternal health vulnerability related to the high fertility among Muslims. Important health vulnerabilities are preterm birth, bleeding before and during delivery, and pregnancy-induced hypertension, gestational diabetes, miscarriage, etc. And important obstetric morbidity during pregnancy and delivery among the Muslim women. The blue bars represents the situation among the women with low fertility, and the red bars represent the situation of women having high fertility rate. The important pregnancy complications or morbidities are severe vomiting, hypertension, bleeding, and these problems are also related to the delivery complications. Now, take a look at the different fetal positions. The head is down of this fetus. This position is known as cephalic position. Delivery in this position is no problem, it's okay. But sometimes in case of the home delivery, the breech position and especially the transverse-like position may create the delivery complication, which lead to the maternal mortality and also neonatal mortality. Home delivery is not desired for reduction of the maternal mortality. The institutional delivery is that delivery which takes place in any hospital or health center, and the birth is operated by skilled birth attendant. And it is estimated that institutional delivery could reduce 16 to 13% of maternal death. Now take a look at the different types of the pregnancy complication. That is, ectopic pregnancy is one of the important pregnancy complications. First, look at the normal pregnancy. What is normal pregnancy? Now take a look at the fertilized egg. It is implanted in the uterus. No problem. This is normal pregnancy. The fetus will grow naturally. And now take a look at the scenario of ectopic pregnancy. What is ectopic pregnancy? When the fertilized eggs comes down through the fallopian tube and is stuck in the fallopian tube, and the fetal started growing, this caused ectopic pregnancy. And as per the government report, that 6% of maternal deaths are due to the ectopic pregnancy. So it is very important to treat regularly, or ultrasonography is very important to detect this type of pregnancy complication. Otherwise, this will lead to the maternal mortality. Now, take the changes of institutional delivery in India as per the NFHS 3 and NFHS 4 data. National Family Health Survey 3 data indicates in the states like Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. All these states are EAG states, and the percentage of institutional delivery was much lower. In Bihar, during NFHS 3, it is conducted in 2005 and 2006. During that period in Bihar, the institutional delivery was only 20%. Only 20%. That means there was home delivery around 80%. So it can be assumed that that led to the higher rate of maternal as well as child mortality. Now take a look at the situation of West Bengal. During 2005 and 6, the institutional delivery was just above 40%. That means nearly 60% delivery in West Bengal, also home delivery. So we have to increase the percentage of the institutional delivery for the reduction of maternal as well as newborn mortality. If we look at the determinants of delivery care in India, the green dots represents the scenario of institutional delivery, and while the red dots that represent the situation of home delivery. The incidence of home delivery decreases with increasing age of marriage of women, and again the percentage of home delivery increases. Now take a look at this point. The home delivery increases with increasing number of child among women, and again the home delivery decreases with increasing education level of women. So it is very important for reduction of home delivery. We have to promote the women education or female education. Now take a look at the impact of the wealth quintile. With increasing wealth quintile, the home delivery again decreases, and with increasing use of ANC, the home delivery again decreases, and home delivery decreases with increasing exposure to mass media. And what are the important determinants of institutional delivery in India? The institutional delivery, it is determined by birth order. How? With increasing birth order, look at the green blue box. With increasing birth order, the institutional delivery decreases. With increasing educational level, the institutional delivery increases. With increasing wealth quintile, again it increases, and with increasing awareness to mass media, it again increases. So what are the reasons for not delivering in institutions in India? The important socio-economic causes are cost too much, and husband or family does not allow to deliver in any hospital or health center, and this is infrastructure actually, that the distance of the health center are too far, or no transportation facility. It is also important determinant for delivering at home. Now, what are the determinants of pregnancy and delivery complications among the Muslims? The pregnancy and delivery complications are determined by place of residence, increasing educational level. The pregnancy and delivery complications decreases with increasing education level of women, and the pregnancy and delivery complication are more among the women who married before 18 years. And one of the important factor is that the women who had menstrual problem, they suffer from more pregnancy complication, and it is more among women who had not taken any ANC visits. And delivery complication is common among the women who had history of pregnancy termination or miscarriage, and type of birth is also one of the factors, because in case of the multiple births or multiple child, the delivery complication may increase. Now take a look at the scenario of utilization of maternal health care over West Bengal. These maps represent the district-wise variation. If we look at the, there are 4 districts are common. Malda is at center. Malda is demographically vulnerable district, and these districts are Uttar Dinajpur, Malda, Murshidabad, and South 24 Parganas. In all the 4 districts I have mentioned, the ANC visit within first trimester, 4 ANC visit, full ANC visit, institutional delivery, percentage of delivery assisted by skilled birth attendant, and percentage of women who has taken the PMC care within 2 days of delivery. These are very low in these 4 districts. So what are the impacts of underutilization of ANC services? Actually, it affects the structural birth defect, like heart disease, restricted fetal growth, and low birth weight. And look at the statistics at national level. Deaths in India per 1,000 live birth. Stillbirth, nearly 16. Neonatal mortality, nearly 22. What is neonatal mortality? If a newborn baby dies before 28 days, that mortality is called neonatal mortality. And what is the scenario of under 5 mortality? It is nearly 40%. So to reduce the infant or under 5 mortality, we have to improve the maternal health care utilization. Now take a look at the maternal health care disparities in West Bengal. I have already mentioned the 4 districts. Here one addition, that is Purulia. Based on the previous 6 indicators, the composite Z score of maternal health care services have been calculated, and the districts are classified into 3 zones, and there are 5 districts with poor performance in maternal health care utilization. And what are the impacts of inadequate utilization of maternal health care? That is ANC, delivery care, and PNC care. Now, very important impact is adverse birth outcome, which includes restricted fetal growth, prematurity, low birth weight. And all these lead to the malnutrition, and malnutrition affect neonatal and infant and under 5 mortality rate. And another significant impact of inadequate utilization of maternal health care services are adverse pregnancy outcome. It includes stillbirth, miscarriage, and abortion. And under condition of women is related to the underutilization of maternal health care, and obstetric complication can be seen among the pregnant women, and which led to the maternal mortality. So the message is clear from this slide that if we want to reduce malnutrition induced neonatal, infant, and under 5 mortality and maternal mortality, we have to improve the maternal health care services. So special care should be taken for the districts like Uttar Dinajpur, Malda, Murshidabad, Purulia, and South 24 Parganas for the improvement of maternal health care services. Otherwise, we will again conduct survey and we will again record that these districts are suffering from underutilization of maternal health care related maternal child mortality. Actually, government is providing so many health facilities, but we the people have decided will not use the maternal child health practices. Then who is actually responsible for that? Actually, people are responsible. I'm not saying that. The educational level, relative backwardness, and lack of awareness are also affecting factors for underutilization of maternal and child health care services in India as well as in West Bengal. Now, moving on to the next, that is maternal mortality. As per the data from sample registration survey, the data indicates that important causes of maternal mortality in India are unsafe abortion, anti and postpartum hemorrhage, anemia, obstructed labor, and postpartum sepsis. Now, look at the scenario of best 3 states, that is top performing state is Kerala. The bold figures are as per SRS of 2014 to 16, and in Kerala it is 46, much lower than the worst state. The highest maternal mortality is recorded in Assam. It is 237. Assam is backward state. We all know that there are 8 EAG states in India that are socio-economically and demographically backward, but Assam is addition with 8. For this 8 EAG and 1 Assam, that 9 states, each and every year, Registrar General of India, the Census of India, conducts annual health survey for monitoring of the situation of maternal and child health. It is a very important study that conducts annually, and it is called annual health survey. And now take a look at the changing scenario of maternal mortality in India. During 2004 to 6, the maternal mortality of India was too high, and it is good sign that maternal mortality is declining. And as per the report of 2015 and 17, look at the performance of the best state, that is Kerala. It is only 42, and in India it is 122, nearly 3 times more in India compared to the figure of Kerala. Why? Because we know that Kerala is rank of Kerala is first in terms of human development. So the message is clear. If we are able to develop human resource development, can reduce all the problems like high fertility, like reduction in child mortality, maternal mortality. And take a look at the subchorionic hemorrhage during pregnancy. I have mentioned in a previous slide that subchorionic hemorrhage is responsible for maternal mortality in India. Look at the moving ultrasonography slide, that there is no black patch. The baby is normal. And now take a look at the right hand side, this plate. First, we should know what is chorion. Chorion is the outermost membrane of embryo or the fetus. The subchorionic hemorrhage, it is clear from this USG plate. This black patch is subchorionic hematoma or subchorionic hemorrhage. Early identification is very much important. Very much important. Otherwise, it can create sepsis and which led to the maternal mortality. The subchorionic hemorrhage are more likely to occur in pregnancies that are conceived through IVF or in vitro fertilization. Now, moving to next, the newborn health vulnerability. Who are newborns? The baby within age group 0 to 2 months are called newborns. This slide is based on my major research project, and the number of sample size is 524. All are Muslim newborns, and the adverse birth outcomes is classified into 2 broad groups, that is low birth weight and preterm birth. What is low birth weight? If a baby born with weight less than 2,500 gram or 2.5 kg, the baby is called low birth weight baby. And what is preterm birth? If a baby born before 37 weeks, the baby is called preterm baby. And based on the 37 weeks, I have divided the whole chart area into 2 parts, that is term birth, the babies who born after 37 weeks, and preterm birth, the babies who born before 37 weeks. On the base of the birth weight, I have divided the babies based on birth weight into 2 categories, that is normal weight, who are more than 2,500 grams, and a low birth weight, that is less than 2,500 grams. And one horizontal and one vertical lines have been drawn, and the whole area is divided into 4 zones. And look carefully that the zone C, is very good. The babies who born in zone C, their condition is good, and that's why I have assigned the baby C as babies with low vulnerability. Why? Because the babies who born in zone C, they are more than 2,500 grams. That means they are of normal weight, and they born after 37 weeks. That means they are term birth. Now take a look at the scenario of zone A and D. The babies in zone A, they are preterm baby, and the babies in zone D, they are of low birth weight baby. As the babies born in zone A and D are suffering from at least one problem, that's why I have categorized zone A and D as moderate zone of moderate vulnerability. And take a look at the zone B, the babies born in zone C. In my study, 13.55% babies born in zone D, they are extremely highly vulnerable because they are suffering from both 2 problems, that low birth weight and preterm birth. Now take a look at the 3 trend lines. red, yellow, and green. The red line represents the scenario of singleton. Who is singleton? If a woman gives birth a single child, it is called singleton. If she gives the birth two child, they are called twins. In case of the three child, they are called triplets. Now take a look at the scenario of singleton. In case of the singleton, they have very lower risk of being low birth weight. But take a look at the scenario of yellow line and a green line, especially green line. This is a situation of triplets. All babies are underweight babies. And what are the impacts of multiple birth on babies, newborn babies? In my study area, that's Malda district, 44% babies born with preterm birth and 22% with low birth weight. Now take a look at the figure below. Two twins are separated, no problem. And here, the head of two twins are joined together. This is called conjoined twins. And conjoined twins is the result of when a sperm fertilized egg, if the fertilized egg, it splits into two parts, or it gives birth to two separate twins. If the splitting process of fertilized egg stops, it gives birth of conjoined twins. And there is a strong weapon for women. If the conjoined twins can be identified during the pregnancy, any woman can go for the pregnancy termination under the Act. Medical termination of pregnancy, she may terminate her pregnancy. Otherwise, she will give birth of conjoined twins. And what are the important risk factors of newborn complication among Muslims? It is affected by place of residence, women education, pre-existing disease like high blood pressure, gestational diabetes is also impact the newborn complications, and type of birth, a singleton or multiple. Compared to singleton, among the multiple babies, the pregnancy complication or risk factors of newborn is much higher. And taking healthy food, it is also a very important factor because the mothers who takes healthy food during the gestation period, they have lower risks of newborn health complication. What are the important determinants of low birth weight among Muslims of Malda? The important determinants are NC visits properly, and the low birth weight, actually it increases with increasing birth order, it increases with increasing age of mother, and maternal age also affect the low birth weight. And in case of the maternal BMI, the incidence of low birth weight increases among the mother who are thin. The low birth weight is lower among the obese mothers. The association between antenatal care utilization and low birth weight, that is less than 2,500 grams. The likelihood or risk of low birth weight among women decreases with increasing number of ANC visit, with increasing ANC visit within first trimester, with ANC by skill provider and ANC by ASHA workers, and the low birth weight is lower among the women who regularly receive health checkup during pregnancy. Now, take a look at the important determinants of low birth weight in India. This portion is from our published paper on maternal determinants of low birth weight among Indian children. The important background factors are maternal age, age at marriage, place of residence, birth order, wealth quintile, etc. And mother-related factors are history of pregnancy termination, any sign of pregnancy complication, maternal food diversity, maternal BMI, and healthcare related factors are ANC visits, place of delivery, and uptake of iron tablets or syrups, etc. affect the low birth weight. And now take a look at the Indian scenario. This table has been prepared based on the NFHS 4 data. food diversity index is an important determinant. It is clear from this table that among the women who had lower food diversity, the percentage of low birth weight is nearly 20. But if we look at the scenario among the women who had higher food diversity, it reduces to 15.8%. So food diversity is important determinant in reducing low birth weight. Maternal BMI also affect low birth weight, and uptaking of iron tablets and syrups and maternal age is also important determinant, and low birth weight decreases with increasing level of education of women, and it also decreases with increasing wealth quintile in India. Now moving to next, under 5 health vulnerability. Shocking fact is that as per the report of UNICEF, that malnutrition causes 69% of children's death in India. And as per UNICEF's report, the report revealed that 17% of Indian children suffer from wasting, and about 33% are suffering from underweight condition. What are the important types of malnutrition? As per the WHO standard, that wasted are those children who have low weight for height, stunted are low height for age, and underweight low weight for age. If we look at the percentage of wasted and underweight children compared to national level and state level figure, the percentage of wasted and underweight children considerably higher in Malda. So it can be said that or assumed that in Malda there is higher risk of child mortality due to the higher malnutrition. Now take a look at the distribution of under 5 child malnutrition, stunting, wasting, and underweight. If we look at the situation of India is very, very disappointing in case of stunting, wasting, and underweight condition. There is no difference between few African countries and India. So special care should be taken for the improvement of under 5 malnutrition status. If we look at the state level variations in a few central and northern states, all the cases like stunted, wasted, and the underweight are much higher. Especially the underweight, India is suffering from the problem of underweight. Look at the last map, that in right side map, almost all central parts, few southern states and western states, there are higher percentage of the underweight, which may lead to the under 5 mortality. This figure has been prepared based on the sample survey on Malda Muslims, of Muslim under 5 children. The situation of underweight and the wasting condition. This green line, it represents the WHO standard. This is standard. And now take a look at the deviation. The red line represents the scenario of underweight and wasting condition among under 5 Muslim children. The situation is not good. Even in case of the stunting, the result is more or less same. And the important diseases are, which prevails in Malda among under 5 children are fever, cold and cough, jaundice, diarrhea, etc. And these are 2 snaps from anthropometric measurement. This is from our field work, and the height measurement is going on, head circumference measurement is going on. With the help of this data, we can easily determine the malnutrition status among under 5 children. If we look at the scenario, district level scenario at a national level, the neonatal mortality rate in Indian districts with reference to Sustainable Development Goal 3. The green colored districts represents good scenario. That means the neonatal mortality rate is lower in both male and females in those districts. If we look at the yellow color, that situation is moderate, but the pink color zones represents higher rate of female and male in neonatal mortality. If we look carefully, there is a huge difference between female and male neonatal mortality rate. The neonatal mortality rate among males is considerably higher compared to females. This is because of the fact that females carry 2 copies of X chromosome, while males carry 1 X and Y chromosome. As the X chromosome contains more genes which prevent females from disease. This is the differential main factors which affect the differential between neonatal mortality among male and females. Now, moving on to the next, child immunization, 12 to 23 months. These maps represent the incomplete immunization in India, and all the maps have been prepared using Getty's statistics. The red colors represents the hot spots and green color represents cold spots. In case of the BCG, 3 doses of DPT, polio, and measles. We should give attention to the zones with red color, because in this region the incomplete immunization is more compared to the blue color zones. This incomplete immunization will lead to the problems like tuberculosis, diphtheria, polio, etc. And these maps represent cluster and outlier analysis of incomplete immunization. This red zones represents high clusters and indicating our situation, and the green zones represents low cluster, that means lower incomplete immunization. These diagrams represents the report of the Morensai spatial autocorrelation statistics, and the statistics reveal that the clustering is significant in all the cases like BCG, DPT1, polio, and measles. We have already observed that there is a huge range of variations at district level in terms of child immunization. COVID impact has hammered this vaccination process. As per the estimation of World Health Organization, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, 23 million children missed out on basic vaccination through routine immunization services in 2020, increased by 3.7 million, and the highest number since 2009. Now, incomplete immunization in India, pattern and determinants. The incomplete immunization in India, it is lower in urban areas. The incomplete immunization is higher in rural areas. It is higher among the stereotypes and among the Muslims. And incomplete immunization is higher among the mothers with age group 35 to 49. Incomplete immunization is higher among the mothers who had no education, and it decreases with increasing wealth quintile, and it again increases with increasing birth order. And incomplete immunization is higher among the mothers who had low level of mass media exposure. Now, moving to the next segment, that is menstrual hygiene practices in India. Various methods used during the menstruation period among currently married women aged 15 to 29 years of age. The hygienic practice that are sanitary napkins, locally prepared sanitary napkins, and tampons. The unhygienic practices are cloths and others. These unhygienic menstrual practices lead to the problems like reproductive tract infection, abnormal vaginal discharge, fungal or bacterial infection of reproductive tract, and the urinary tract, and most importantly, that unhygienic practice it may increase the risk of cervical cancer. What is cervical cancer? Take a look at this figure. It is healthy cervix. The cervix is not affected, and if we look at the right side, that the affected cervix, and it is affected by cancer tissues, and the cervix red spots are there, the affected cervix, and it is related to the use of the unhygienic menstrual practices. We know that the World Menstrual Hygiene Day is observed on May 28. that means 528. One very interesting fact behind this, that the World Menstruation Day, it is observed on May 28. This is because of the fact that the menstrual duration is on an average of 5 days, and the menstrual cycle is of on an average 28 days. That's why the World Menstrual Hygiene Day is observed on May 28. And this portion is also from my published paper with my research scholar, and the incidence of cervical cancer by country estimated for 2018. Take a look at the scenario of African countries and few South American countries. The both affected and the mortality rate affected by the cervical cancer both are higher in African countries and few South American countries, and the scenario in India is not so good. If we look at the district level variations in menstrual hygiene practice among currently married women, it is clear from this diagram that in almost all the EAG states, the percentage of using menstrual hygiene practice is very low, that is 8 to 26%. So women should be care of using hygiene practices, otherwise they can suffer from the problems which I have already mentioned. And what are the important determinants? I have selected two important determinants that affect the menstrual hygiene practices in India, that is level of education and wealth quintile. Compared to the women belong to illiterate, the women of richer education and richest wealth quintile, there is significant increase in the use of the menstrual hygiene practices compared to the women who are literate and belong to the poorer wealth quintile. Now, based on the geographical region, it is clear from this figure that the developed region is the southern region, where the higher hygienic practices are found, and the most underdeveloped region is eastern region of India. But one thing is common in all regions, that there are huge range of variations in using menstrual hygiene practices between rural and urban areas. So rural women should be aware regarding the menstrual hygiene practices, otherwise they will face many problems. Take a look at this diagram. All the states have been arranged in ascending order, and the percentage of India, it is 49%. In India, 49% women use menstrual hygiene practices. Compared to India, the situation of West Bengal is not good. The percentage is 47%, and there are 7 EAG states whose performance is disappointing, especially in Bihar, Madhya Pradesh. In Bihar, only 25.5% women they are currently using hygienic menstrual practices. That means it may be concluded that nearly 75% women still they are using unhygienic menstrual practices. Now, moving to the next segment, that COVID-19 pandemic and the selected health issues. This map represents stringency index. Actually, stringency index, it is an index which is calculated based on considering 9 indicators like workplace closure, school closure, travel ban, etc. The red colors represents the strict lockdowns or partial lockdowns. In India, the stringency index as per July 9, 2021 was between 80 to 19%. And now take a look at the scenario of first wave and second wave of COVID in India, and their association with stringency index. During January, February, March 2020, the stringency index were low because this is the situation of pre-lockdown. When the nationwide lockdown declared, look at the yellow line, the stringency index. Actually, the value of stringency index, it ranges between 0 to 100. The value is exactly 100 when the lockdown declared. The number of COVID cases were negligible, and when the stringency index decreased, the COVID cases, the confirmed cases in India increased. This is the scenario of first wave, and take a look at the scenario of second wave when the stringency index in India was between 60 to nearly 80-85%. So there is association between stringency index and second wave of COVID in India. Now take a look at the comparative scenario of Human Development Index, preparedness and fatality rates of selected European and Southeast Asian countries. For the purpose of the research, I have selected 10 European countries and 10 Southeast Asian countries. This portion is also from our published paper. So if we look at the scenario of human development, the European countries like Germany, Sweden, UK, they have a high level of human development index and high level of preparedness to cope up with the pandemic like COVID-19 because they have developed health infrastructure like physician per 10,000 population, the nurses and midwives and hospital beds are more compared to the Southeast Asian countries. If we look at the health expenditure percentage of GDP in India, it is only 3.7, whereas the health expenditure in Germany and Sweden, it is nearly 11. Now take a look at the diagram. It represents the association between case fatality rate and preparedness. This red circle represents the scenario of highly developed countries of very high human development. The red long towers, they represent the scenario of higher case fatality despite of that high preparedness and very high level of human development index. Take a look at the scenario of high and medium human development index countries of Southeast Asia. In these countries, the case fatality rates are considerably lower compared to the European countries. Now take a look at the comparison based on age structure between European and Southeast Asian region. In European region, the elderly percentage of elderly population is considerably higher. If we compare India with Italy and Germany, in India, the elderly population is nearly 5.5%, and in Italy and Germany, it is more than 5 times. And if we look at the case fatality rates in India, it is only 2.31%. But in case of the United States, Italy, it is more than 7 times of India. So look at the diagram. The red bars indicates the elderly population. The higher case fatality rates are common in the countries where the higher percentage of elderly population. It is a common phenomena in the highly developed European countries. If we look at the situation of Southeast Asian countries, these countries are dominated by child and youth population, and the case fatality rates in these countries are considerably lower. Apart from the age structure, the comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, COPD, etc. act as triggering factors of COVID-19 fatality. Now moving to next, the indoor air pollution and pre-existing morbidities among under 5 children in India as risk factor of COVID-19. Now we are talking about the third wave, which may affect the children. So how the child death is related to the COVID? For the purpose of the study, we have classified the variables into 3 broad categories. That is indoor air pollution, that is solid biomass cooking fuel use, indoor smoking cigarettes, pre-existing morbidities among under 5 children, ARI means acute respiratory infection, cold and cough among children, fever, and COVID-19 factors are case fatality rate and active case rate. This portion is also from my published paper with my scholars. It's published in Environmental Pollution Journal, and the Union territories and states of India are shown based on all the indicators I mentioned earlier, and based on these indicators, the risk zone, all the states and union territories are classified into 3 risk zones. That is very high to very high risk zone. The states like Meghalaya, Uttarakhand, Arunachal Pradesh, West Bengal, and Maharashtra. These are comes under the high to very high risk zone. The states like Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu falls under the category of moderate risk zone, and Assam, Chandigarh, and Arunachal Pradesh, these are under the very low to low risk zone. Now, effect of cooking fuel types and other factors on prevalence of ARI. ARI is a very important and serious health issue among under 5 because as per the estimation that globally 11 to 22% deaths among the children aged less than 5 years are due to the ARI. This report is from Lancet Infectious Disease Journal, and the important determinants in India that affect ARI age of child is very important. Compared to 48 to 49 age group, the children who are of 6 to 11 month age group, they are more vulnerable to ARI, and it is prevalent among the poorest families. And compared to southern region, the central region, in central region, the ARI is more. So how can we prevent the ARI? For prevention measures, the protection, prevention and treatment is very important. For the reduction, we should protect by promoting exclusive breastfeeding and adequate complementary feeding, prevention with vaccinations, hand washing with soap, reducing household air pollution, and treat ARI focusing on making sure that every sick child has access to the right kind of care. Now, take a look at the spatial pattern of variations in residential mobility in India. During the pre-lockdown, that is the case of 2020, when the lockdown was not declared, the COVID cases in all the states were lower. And residential mobility, red colors represent the very low mobility and green color represents high mobility. When the COVID cases increases, the lockdown declared, and when the COVID cases again decreases, the unlock declare phase-wise, phase 1, phase 2. And in 2021, February, we experienced second wave of COVID-19, when again the COVID cases increased, and there is considerable increase in the state like Maharashtra during second wave in the month of March. Now, whether are we inviting the third wave of COVID-19? Because already we have started not following the COVID-19 protocols, not wearing masks, not maintaining social distance, and COVID-19 pandemic has affected the family planning and unwanted pregnancies in India. As per the study of FRHS India, the estimated loss of services and sales of family planning is like that. IUCD will lose in worst case. Worst case means in case of the strict lockdown when all services are closed. In worst case, the IUCD loss will be 1.28 million. The oral contraceptive pill loss will be nearly 28 million. The emergency contraceptive loss will be nearly 1 million, and very importantly that condom loss will be nearly 500 million. So these types of loss of family planning will definitely affect or increase unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortion, and maternal death. Now take a look at the statistics. And in worst case, the number of couples unable to access the contraception will be 27 million. Number of unintended pregnancy will be nearly 3 million. Number of abortion will be 1.79 million, and number of unsafe abortion will be 1 million. This is very important because unsafe abortion is one of the leading cause of maternal mortality in India. Is baby boom ahead as COVID-19 kept many women away from family planning services? Now, what is the scenario at a district level in West Bengal? If we look at the age at marriage, the pink color districts represents the child dominance of child marriage, and the pink color districts in this map represents the index of marriage, and pink color districts represents the lower level of female literacy, and last map this represents the index of non-contraception. The index of non-contraception means a number of married women who are still not using any types of contraceptives. All this leads to the TFR, that means total fertility rate. There are 3 districts where the TFR is more than 2.2. These are Uttar Dinajpur, Malda, and Purulia. So there may be baby boom in these districts amidst COVID-19 pandemic. So baby boom or baby bust. If we look at the myth or intuitions of 2020 that in initial days of COVID-19 pandemic, the general belief was that the lockdown would mean people staying at home and coaching up with their partners, and staying at home will lead to the baby boom. And as per the report of United Nations, that India will be the center of the baby boom triggered by the COVID-19 outbreak, and the number of unintended pregnancies in India in worst case will be 2.95 million as per the report of FRHS India. Now take a reality check in 2020. The reality is much more sober than what everyone expected, and the pandemic has actually led to the baby bust rather than baby boom. The study of European adults fertility plan found people in Germany, France, and United Kingdom who lived in the areas most affected by COVID-19 were more likely to postpone having children. There is a well-documented link between changes in income and birth. When income increases, people often expand their families, and when people experience joblessness and income loss, they have fewer children. Now, what would be in case of India? Latest SRS data on fertility had been published in May 2020, which was based on reference year 2018. So we have to wait for upcoming data on fertility to validate the myth of baby boom in India amidst COVID-19 pandemic. You all know that currently we are running through the era of sustainable development. There are 17 sustainable development goals with 169 targets. Today's presentation is related to the Sustainable Development Goal 3, that is good health and well-being. So if we look at the scenario of India, in case of the maternal mortality ratio, the status of India, its current status, it is also as per the SRS 2020, because current data has not been published. It is 113, but the target is given by UNDP age. We have to reduce the maternal mortality less than 70 per 1 lakh live birth. So at present we are 113. So we have to work hard. We have to reduce the maternal mortality to achieve the sustainable development goal in case of the maternal mortality reduction. What is the scenario of ending preventable death of newborn? The current status is 21.7, but the target is as low as 20 per 1,000 live birth. So situation is again disappointing in terms of the newborn death. And in case of reduction of under 5 mortality, the current position of India, the figure is 34, and our target is as low as 25 per 1,000 live birth. Actually, these targets are global target. We have to achieve it. To achieve this, we have to increase the awareness, and we have to increase the utilization of maternal and child care cards. Otherwise, we will not able to achieve the sustainable development goal. Now, take a look at the performance of India in reducing neonatal mortality rate with reference to Sustainable Development Goal 3. The green colored districts already achieved the Sustainable Development Goal 3. There are 33 districts which already achieved the neonatal mortality reduction in case of female, and 30 districts already achieved the reduction of neonatal mortality for males. And the red color districts, they are not likely to achieve the target by 2030. And the performance in reducing under 5 mortality rate, there are few districts in West Bengal that is marked, highlighted with the green color. They have already achieved the Sustainable Development Goal 3. But in case of India, in case of the reduction of under 5 mortality among female, total 103 districts have already reached the target, but not likely to achieve in 2030. There are 124 districts which will not achieve the target in case of reduction of female under 5 mortality rate, and the number of districts in case of the reduction of under 5 mortality for males is much higher. Number of districts are the 281. So what can be done for the reduction of fertility? First of all, is very important for the improvement of female education and reduction of child marriage and early age marriage, using contraceptives for limiting family size and birth spacing. And I think it is very important that reduction in neonatal and under 5 mortality. If we are able to reduce the child mortality, the fertility will definitely decrease. It also be well explained through this model of demographic transition. We all know that the fertility or birth rate was high when the mortality was very high. If we look at the scenario of the developed countries, the fertility rate declined with decreasing mortality rate. That's why it is called that development is the best contraceptive. And for improvement in maternal and child health, the Marriage Act, legal age, proper nutritious food are essential for a healthy pregnancy as well as healthy diet during pregnancy, which stimulates the baby's growth and development. Adequate antenatal care is very important, and following the instruction of ASHA workers for birth preparedness, importance of safe delivery and care of young child, and post-natal care is also important. So in conclusion, I may say that the fertility reduction is very much important for achieving demographic dividend in overpopulated country like India. And female education improvement is also important. Maternal and child health care improvement is also required, because it can reduce the mortality, both maternal as well as neonatal mortality. And disruption in family planning and contraception amidst COVID-19 has caused unintended pregnancies worldwide. So newborns should be given special attention amidst COVID-19. The countries with population aging must take protective measures, and special attention should be given to the elderly population with comorbidities to dip the case fatality rates. And the child and youth population are not invincible to COVID-19 infection, and they can be infected, may spread the disease, and eventually they may die. So they should follow the COVID-19 safeguard guidelines. And I think a very important issue right now amid the COVID-19 pandemic is that the lower and middle income countries, especially India, must develop their health infrastructure to cope up the crisis like COVID-19 pandemic. These are the references. The yellow highlighted are my published papers with my research scholars, which I have used in my presentation. And I would like to convey my sincere gratitude to Indian Council of Social Science Research, Government of India, for providing grant to complete the major research project on fertility behavior and its impact on maternal and newborn health among Muslims of Malda district. I would like to thank my research scholars and PG students of Department of Geography, University of Gaur for extending their help in the data collection and data compilation. I am extremely thankful to the organizers of this webinar for giving me the opportunity to deliver the lecture on public health issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Chauhan, for such an insightful deliberation, so full of facts and figures and massively researched. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, we'll begin with the interactive session now. We have a couple of questions already. So the first question, It says that recently it has been reported that there is a drop in the institutional deliveries in two states, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. And the record is that there has been a drop of institutional deliveries by 15.39%. But on the other hand, if you look at the overall scenario, as in the national scenario, in the last 2 decades, according to the NFHS report, the institutional deliveries have increased from 39% to 79%. So how could you explain that? Why is that only these 2 states are lagging behind in institutional deliveries?
Actually, we know about the Bimaru states of India. Bimaru states consist of Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. So now we categorize the states, backward states, as EAG states. There are 8 EAG states, and you mentioned the 2 states which are also EAG states. And these EAG states are socio-economically and demographically backward states. Still they are backward. Dr. Bose mentioned these states are Bimaru state during 1970s, but still after 50 years they are still backward. So different factors are responsible, especially women education. If we look at the data, these states are characterized by low level of female education or literacy rate, relative economic backwardness. These are the triggering factors for not only the institutional delivery, but these EAG states are demographically vulnerable in terms of maternal mortality and child mortality. So it is very difficult if people do not, I mentioned earlier, if they do not think that they have to utilize the proper the healthcare facilities and development of education is also depends on the that states or the women. If we able to improve the educational level of women, I mentioned earlier that development is the best contraceptive. If we will able to increase the female literacy rate, definitely the institutional delivery in all EAG states will increase.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is by Shayundeep Pal. He asks that, seeing the Indian population growth rate, what do you think that Indian government should introduce the child policy or not?
Actually, few states have mentioned that if we, as you mentioned, population policy of 2 child. I mentioned my presentation that as a whole, the TFR of India is just nearly 2, that is 2.1. If we look at the scenario of EAG states, in those states the fertility rates are considerably higher compared to the national level. I think rather than the implementing the population policies, development is the best contraceptive. We will able to develop the socio-economic background of the states. The fertility will definitely reduce.
Sir, in continuation with this, it's a bit related. Sneha Bishash, she asks that, what do you think that 2-child policy of UP will be effective or not?
I mentioned that rather than implementing, I believe in the development. I think government should give attention for the socio-economic development of that states. They will definitely decline the fertility rate. I believe this.
Okay. The next question is from Anindita Ghosh, our AG madam. She has asked that, can you suggest any method to stop the occurrence of twins and triplets?
Reduction.
She has asked whether it can be stopped, whether you can give any suggestion regarding...
No. It is completely biological. I mentioned that if one fertilized egg, it splits into parts, it will give birth to the twins. It is not in our hand. No, never.
Right, sir. Thank you. So the next question is by Dr. Jhuma Haldar, our head of the department. She has asked that, what factors do you think affects women's utilization of health services during pregnancy and childbirth?
I mentioned so many factors. First important factor is age of marriage, and most important factor is women education. underutilization of maternal and child health care are more among the women who are literate or of low level of education.
Okay, sir, thank you. And the last question is by Dr. Piyali Ghosh. She has asked that, did you observe any significant difference between the economically low and economically established Muslim families in Malda regarding maternity health issues?
Definitely. If you collect 50 samples from the developed area or developed Muslims who are highly educated, and if you collect 50 samples from backward region Muslim areas, you will definitely get the differences, because depending on the level of development, education, and other socioeconomic factors, the utilization of maternal health care and child health care will differ. Definitely.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful lecture. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Okay, now may I please request Dr. Shumana Roy to deliver the reportier's speech. Ma'am, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Shohini. Today, our second day or closing day of international webinar, we have spent a quite number of hours, and we have gathered huge knowledge and information from two renowned speakers, Professor Shashwati Mukherjee and Professor Pradeep Chauhan. This is a very difficult task to concise today's two lectures within few minutes, as we know that the length and breadth of today's discussion on the heterogeneity in human populace was very extensive. Each lecture was followed by a question-answer session and interesting interactions from the participants. Some comments have also made by the participants that have enriched this session. So I highlight only the essence of matters they have talked today. We started our morning with a discussion of changing dimensions in social and cultural geography delivered by Professor Shashwati Mukherjee. Her speech was very relevant to our students and faculties. She discussed various facets of social and cultural geography and their changing nature. She mentioned that now man and environment society is going through a shift during pandemic situation. She pointed out stages of transformation: modernism, postmodernism, post-colonialism, neoliberalism. She highlighted the major contribution of different geographers of these two subdisciplines, along with a longitudinal cross-section. Professor Mukherjee mentioned space-time framework, hybrid geography, individual decision-making, behavioral approach, social space, homelessness, social utopia. She delivered a clear picture on domain of cultural geography, heterotopia, space of hope, cultural diaspora, identity crisis, cultural globalization, concept of power and space as a contemporary subject matters of cultural geography. Her lectures has immensely enlightened us. Then we got the opportunities to enlighten our thoughts on public health scenario. Professor Pradeep Chauhan delivered his lecture on emerging public health issues and concerns in India. He endorsed various issues and concerns related to maternal and child health care and their vulnerability. His highlighted issues were fertility behavior, fertility transition, changing pattern of birth and death rate in the light of demographic transition, concept of baby boom, baby bust, eco effect. To explain fertility behavior, he mentioned cross-sectional analysis of inter-religion viewpoint of fertility behavior, necessity of family planning, interrelationship between female literacy and total fertility rate, controlling socioeconomic factors of fertility like poverty, age of marriage, wealth index, etc. He very elaborately explained the disparities in maternal health care facilities, various facets of maternal mortality and its changing scenario, status of institutional delivery, and different delivery complications observed in India. He discussed malnutrition, rural-urban disparity in immunization to explain vulnerability of newborn under 5 health conditions. He emphasized on different facets of reproductive health and menstrual hygienic practices. He very nicely stated the present situation of COVID-19 pandemic, different health issues and its prevention with the help of stringency index, human development index, fatality rates, and also mentioned the role of sustainable development goals and their different targets. He suggested that lower and middle income countries must improve health infrastructure and government should take initiatives for aging population to get protective measures. His lecture was very informative and thought-provoking. Thank you, sir, for sharing an excellent in-depth research work with us. Now, we are at the end of 2 days international webinar and I would like to request Srimati Anindita Ghosh to deliver vote of thanks.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself. AG madam.
Mute. Oh, I'm very sorry. Now, wait. I express my heartfelt thanks to Shumana, and now our 2-day webinar on reconstructing heterogeneity in human populace, transition and transformation is at the penultimate stage. Now we had a 2 days discussion. Yesterday, Professor Kuntala Lahiri spoke about social justice during the transformation of our dependence on energy sources from biofuels like coal to a more renewable energy sources like solar power. Thank you, Kuntaladi, for your wonderful presentation. For the second session, we had the presentation from Professor Shanot Kumar Guchait, who spoke about the environmental sustainability, entropy maximization, and increase of greenhouse gases. And he also spoke about the hollow box model. Thank you, Professor Shanot Guchait, for your wonderful presentation. Today we have 2 presentations. The first one was of Shashwati Mukherjee. It was a very thought-provoking presentation which stated about the changing dimensions of social and cultural geography. She speaks about the changing dimensions of social geography. We have changed from social theories to social activism. He also spoke about the changing cultural dimension, especially from the end of 20th century, where the focus have shifted to micro-level studies to heterotopia. Thank you, Shashwati, for your thought-provoking and extremely research presentation. For our last speaker, we have Professor Pradeep Chauhan, who speak about the emerging public health issues and concerns in India. It was a highly researched and insightful paper, and I thank Professor Pradeep Chauhan for that. He spoke about the fertility behavior and associated maternal and child health problems. He also spoke about the reasons for this and the behavior of maternal, the things we are receiving due to the health issues which has arisen due to this COVID-19 pandemic, especially among the maternal and child health cares. Thank you, Pradeep, for this wonderful presentation. It was a very insightful and very research presentation, and we learned a lot about the behavior of fertility and maternal behavior from your presentation and the health care we are receiving now. I take my opportunity to thank our principal, Dr. Gautam Kundu. Without his active help and participation, this webinar would not have been possible. I again thank our IQAC convener, Dr. Alok Ghosh Chaudhary, who has helped us to conduct this webinar. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Jhuma Haldar, our head of the department and the convener of this webinar. Without her initiative, this webinar would have not been possible. I again thank Dr. Uttam Mukhopadhyay for his heartfelt help in this webinar. The conduct of this webinar would not have been so smooth without the participation and active help from Shohini Nyogi. Thank you, Shohini, for your help. Dr. Shumana Rai has shown sufficient expertise in both days for concising the day's proceedings. Thank you, Shumana, for your participation. I thank Momita Kanjilal and Dr. Piyale Ghosh for introducing the speakers Shashwati Mukherjee and Pradeep Chauhan to us. Finally, I thank Shuman Sharkar, Bishwajit Rai Chaudhuri, Ujjaldeep Shaha and Tuhin Kanti Roy for providing required technological know-how for the conduct of this webinar. I express my thanks to Chikmik Kaur Deblina Mitro for actively helping us and providing things we needed to conduct this webinar successfully. And last but not the least, I express my thanks to my students, to the listeners of this webinar who has given us a patient hearing so that we can conduct this webinar successfully. With this, I conclude this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. It is a request to all the participants that the feedback form has been given in the chat box. I would request all the participants to fill up the feedback form within 10 p.m. today. So, and while the certificate would reach your email IDs, I would also request them to check the inbox primarily, and if not, then to please check the spam folder. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Juma. Thank you, Shohini. Thank you, Anindita. Thank you, Shumana.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Momita. Thank you, Piyali. Thank you.